The candles flickered on the cake, 25 small flames glowing in the dark dining room. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. My friends had gathered, the neighbors had come. Even Kayla, my younger sister, stood in the corner snapping pictures on her phone. I leaned forward, Noah clapping his little hands from his chair, his sweet voice shouting, "Mama, blow the candles." My heart swelled. I took a breath, ready to wish for something as small as peace. But before I could blow, Dad's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Don't waste your breath. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." Laughter followed, his, deep and cruel, then Kayla's high-pitched cackle. My mother smirked, wineglass in hand, and shook her head. "You know what we should have done?" she announced loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Raised a dog instead of her. At least a dog learns tricks. At least a dog knows its place." The room erupted with uneasy laughter, neighbors glancing at each other, not sure if they should join in or stay quiet. My face burned. I froze, staring at the cake, the candles still lit, wax dripping into the frosting. "Useless," Dad sneered, slapping the table so hard the plates rattled. "Completely useless. You think anyone here believes you'll ever be worth more than scraps? You're lucky we even lit those candles." Kayla raised her phone, recording, her voice dripping with delight. "Smile for the camera, sis. Let's show the world what a joke looks like." I felt Noah's little hand touch my arm, his voice quiet, trembling. "Mama, why are they laughing?" My throat tightened. I couldn't answer him. My vision blurred as the flames flickered in front of me, mocking me with their glow. The guests whispered. Some chuckled nervously, others looked away, embarrassed to be part of the scene. But no one said a word in my defense. Mom lifted her glass in a mock toast. "Here's to our daughter. Though honestly, we'd be better off with a mutt." Everyone laughed again, even louder. My chest felt like it was caving in, every word pressing down until I couldn't breathe. I blew out the candles, not with a wish, but with a fury that burned hotter than any flame. The smoke rose in the silence that followed, and in that moment, something inside me shifted. I looked at Noah, his big eyes brimming with confusion, and I realized they weren't just humiliating me. They were teaching my son that I was nothing, and that was the last lesson I would ever let them teach him. I cut the cake in silence, handed slices to the guests, and forced a smile. But inside, my heart was steel. My parents thought their laughter made them powerful. They thought their cruelty would keep me crawling. But they didn't know I was already planning. They didn't know that the same night they laughed at me in front of everyone, I decided they would never laugh again. And the best part? The thing they loved most, the thing they clung to tighter than their pride, would be the first thing I took from them. The days after my birthday were heavier than the air in that dining room. I thought maybe, just maybe, the humiliation would fade. But humiliation never fades when it's fed by the very people who are supposed to love you. At breakfast, Dad shoved a newspaper across the table. "See that?" he barked, pointing to an article about a local student who'd landed a scholarship. "That's what kids are supposed to bring their parents. Not bills, not shame. If you were even half as smart, maybe we wouldn't regret keeping you." Mom snorted, buttering toast for Kayla. "Regret's the word. Honestly, if we'd adopted a dog, we'd be proud by now. Dogs listen. They're loyal. They don't bite the hand that feeds them." Kayla laughed so hard she nearly dropped her coffee. "She doesn't even bite. She just sits there. Useless." I stared at my plate, cutting Noah's food into little squares so he wouldn't choke. My hands shook, but I kept my face blank. Dad leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing at me. "You think staying quiet makes you strong? It just makes you invisible, and invisible things don't get fed." Mom lifted her coffee. "Invisible things don't get remembered either." The cruelty was deliberate now. They had tasted blood at my birthday and wanted more. Every gathering became another chance. They told the mailman I was still living off scraps. They told neighbors my son would grow up just as useless as his mother. And the neighbors, The same ones who had laughed at my birthday stopped looking at me the same way. Their glances carried pity, or worse, agreement. At night, Noah whispered questions that stabbed deeper than their words. "Mama, why does Grandpa say you're nothing? Why does Grandma laugh?" I held him, rocking him until he slept. But when he was asleep, I stared into the dark, fury boiling in my chest. Because it wasn't just my humiliation anymore. It was his. One evening, I overheard Kayla talking to a friend on the phone. She was in the living room, pacing with her perfect hair falling in waves. "I'm their only real daughter," she said, twirling a strand of hair. "They told me themselves. She's just a burden. Honestly, I think they only keep her around because she makes me look better." My breath caught, rage burning my throat. But I didn't step in. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. Because I had finally realized something. Their power lived in the noise, in my tears, in my pleas, in my outbursts. So I gave them silence. And in that silence, I began to see their cracks. Dad's pride was his kingdom. He bragged to everyone about being the man whose children respected him, who ran his home with an iron fist. Take away that pride, and he would choke on his own. Emptiness. Mom's weakness was her image. She wanted neighbors to see her as the perfect mother, the selfless matriarch. Make her look like the coward she really was, and her mask would collapse. Kayla's vanity was her lifeline. She craved attention, approval, admiration. Strip that away, and she would shrivel faster than any punishment I could hand her. They thought I was invisible. They thought they could humiliate me without consequence. But they forgot one thing. Invisible people see everything. And what I saw, their pride, their image, their vanity, was exactly what I would destroy. By the time Kayla's big family dinner was announced, I was ready. They wanted me to sit at the table again, a prop for their cruelty, a joke for their friends. But this time, I wasn't coming to sit. I was coming to take. And when I was done, the laughter that had haunted me for years would finally die in their throats. The night of Kayla's dinner came with too much polish. The polished silverware, the polished table, the polished lies. The dining room buzzed with neighbors, extended family, and a few of Kayla's friends. They had gathered not for me, of course, but to celebrate Kayla's new promotion, and, as Dad put it, the real success in the family. I came anyway, not as a guest, not as a victim, but as something they had never seen in me before. Quiet thunder waiting to break. Noah held my hand as we walked in. Michael trailed behind us, steady, his eyes never leaving me. Kayla spotted me first, her smile curdling into a smirk. "Well, well. Look who crawled in. Careful, sis. Don't beg for scraps tonight. We only have enough food for people who matter." Laughter rippled, the same kind that had once crushed me. But tonight, it didn't cut. Tonight, it fueled. Dad raised his glass, his voice booming over the chatter. "A toast to Kayla, the daughter worth raising." His words sliced through me, but I didn't flinch. I waited until the glasses clinked, until the room quieted, until all eyes were on him. Then I stood. "I want to give a toast, too," I said, my voice calm but sharp. The room stilled. Kayla folded her arms, Dad's jaw clenched, Mom rolled her eyes, but I didn't waver. "This table," I said slowly, "is where you laughed at me, where you called me useless, where you told me a dog was worth more than I am, and you laughed in front of my son." Gasps rippled. Some of the guests looked at me with sympathy, others with unease. But before anyone could speak, I reached into the bag I'd brought and pulled out 3 envelopes. I set the first in front of Dad. "You love to brag about being respected, about being the man whose word is law. But do they know, Dad, that you're 3 months behind on the mortgage? That the man who boasts about control can't even keep a roof standing without Kayla's boyfriend slipping you cash behind closed doors?" Dad's face went pale, the room whispering. Around him. He slammed his fist on the table, but the sound only made him smaller. I set the second envelope in front of Mom. "You love to act like the perfect mother, the woman who sacrificed everything. But do they know that when I was 15, You used my college fund to pay for Kayla's pageant gowns? That you stood by and laughed while I scrubbed floors instead of studying? You didn't sacrifice for me, Mom. You sacrificed me. Her wine glass slipped, spilling red across the white tablecloth like blood. She stammered, but her silence screamed louder than any excuse. Finally, I slid the last envelope in front of Kayla. She leaned forward with a smirk, ready to dismiss me, until she opened it. Inside wasn't money or paper, but a photo, one I had taken quietly weeks ago, of her sneaking into Tyler's car late at night, kissing him goodbye after a screaming match. I had followed the whispers, watched the cracks in her perfect life, and found the truth. Tyler was already pulling away, already tired of her cruelty. Kayla, I said, my voice steady, you wanted to laugh at me, to record my humiliation, but now your friends see who you really are. Desperate, clinging, not adored but tolerated. The golden child, rusted at the edges. Kayla's hands shook, her face blotchy with rage and panic. She's lying! She's making it up! But no one moved to defend her. Tyler himself wasn't there tonight, and the empty chair beside her burned like a spotlight. The room buzzed with whispers, the kind that spread like wildfire, neighbors shaking their heads, friends avoiding her eyes. Dad tried to stand, his voice thundering. This is nonsense. She's nothing. She's... But then Noah, my little boy, spoke, his voice small, trembling but clear. Grandpa, Mama's not nothing. You are. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Dad's face drained of color. For the first time in my life, he had no words. I gathered Noah in my arms, my chin high. You wanted him to watch me crawl. Tonight, he watched you crumble. I turned, Michael steady at my side, and walked out. Behind me, the house buzzed with chaos. Kayla screaming, Mom sobbing, Dad cursing, guests filing out with disgust. The laughter that had once filled those walls was gone. And for the first time, the silence belonged to them, not me. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.